We are back with the Behind the ERG podcast with another exciting episode with an amazing guest, and I'm sure you will be really entertained by the conversation. If you're new to the Behind the ERG podcast, I'm your host, Edward Odofin, and what we do on Behind the ERG is unpack the purpose, power, and real life stories of change makers and visionaries across some of the world's largest organizations who are creating pathways for our community to succeed and providing platforms for inclusive spaces. Before I introduce our guests, if you're watching this for the first time, or if this is your second, third, or fourth episode, please make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're liking the videos as well. Share a comment to give your insights in terms of what was a useful takeaway. And please share as well, because it's important that the voices of our guests are being heard by the community. Now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests. She is someone who is redefining what it means to inspire change and to ignite impact across the creative sector. She's also a visionary and part of the leadership team at the Black Employee Network at her organisation. She's also the brainchild of the innovative relay race, where they raised a significant sum for sickle cell charity and devised a creative way to make fundraising fun. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Busola Akinsete.
Thank you, Ed. Such a lovely introduction.
Bit more.
I love that introduction. Visionary. I was like, am I a visionary? Anyway, but no, hello. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
And what we like to do on the Behind the ERG is just a wellness check because mental health is important in our community.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic. A new year.
Love that.
I had a chance previously to look back on last year, and I think last year was a really good year for me. So I think it's set pace for the year to come. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I've had some great downtime with family and friends, and I'm ready to go again.
Love that. And I was going to ask what sport you enjoy so far, but you kind of spoke about that already in terms of being able to spend some time with family and friends. So let me not be asking questions for the sake of asking questions.
Exactly.
Love that. So what we're going to start with today is you've got a fascinating career. I know it's primarily in tech, but you do a lot of the creative in the creative space as well. So the first question is, how did you end up doing what you're doing today?
As in my career?
Yeah.
I've kind of fell into it. So I've, as you mentioned, I'm in tech now, but since graduating university, I've always been in tech. But it's funny because I remember when I didn't have a roadmap or a pathway for what I wanted to do. It was I was in my last year of uni. I needed to get a graduate job, and I saw a role come up on a graduate scheme. I don't know if I should admit this, but I didn't even truly understand the role that I was applying for. I think I got the basic premise of it. And it was in the hardware space in a large technology company. And I applied and somehow I got it. And so since then I've moved through a few companies now. I started out in the hardware space and now I've moved into the software space, which I find really exciting because it's always evolving. And at the moment I'm in digital experience specifically. So yeah, I kind of landed in it and have just kind of gone through the journey.
Love that.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do next is talk about your experiences as a Black woman in technology. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, what has that journey been like?
I think it's evolved over time. I think if I think about when I first graduated again, and I went onto the graduate scheme, and there was I think there were around 20 plus of us on there, and I was the only Black person on the scheme. I think what was quite strange for me is not seeing anybody that looked like me. So that was kind of weird because it's how do you fit in or how do you assimilate? Where do you position yourself? I think it's also evolved over time because through my experiences, I think I've encountered initially things that I don't really know how to label them. So, for instance, things like microaggressions, or unconscious bias. I think early in my career, I kind of experienced those things, but I didn't really know how to label them. So then you don't really know how to address them. But over time, as I've gone through my career, I've actually gained more experience, more knowledge, more confidence, more clarity. So I can I think I know how to balance now, like being my authentic self, which I think I don't believe in that thing where they say bring your whole self to work,
Yeah.
you know. But I think I've learned to balance being my authentic self, but how to thrive within a business culture, because at the end of the day we're employed to do a job. So yeah, I've got more confidence now. I think I've got more clarity. You know, I can set boundaries, I can speak up more. I've been able to build my network over time, find community, and yeah, doing it that way has made my career more like sustainable and more fulfilling as I've like gone through the journey. So it's just evolved.
Love that.
Yeah.
And just for the awareness of the guests, what do you do?
So at the moment, I'm an account manager
Okay.
in the digital experience space, focusing on industry, like specific industry. So last year I concentrated on the retail industry, and my main focus is to understand like the strategic objectives of an organization, and then understand how the technology that they've procured from us can help drive those objectives, and ensure they're seeing that return on investment and their value.
And what we're going to do is just get straight to nitty gritty,
Yeah.
because on Patrice's episode, he spoke about the challenges for black female representation in the tech industry. And I think, and I may be misquoting, he said it's less than 1% of the industry. So,
Dagger to the heart.
based on that being your industry,
Yeah.
what have been the challenges that you've faced that you can talk about? And what have you done to overcome those challenges?
I think it's what I touched on before, which is when you if you don't see people that look like you, how do you know you can get there? Like, where do you go for guidance? Who can you like confide in or talk to get, you know, guidance or balance? That has been quite difficult. And I think, as I say, like trying to find my own voice and my own confidence, that has been challenging. I think what's helped me navigate it is one, building my network, like in different facets though. So my network when it comes to community, which is why I've always gotten involved in like employee resource groups, because I think you find people through that who have some sort of lived experience that you can identify with, but also building a network when it comes to mentors, sponsorship, allies that actually value like my voice or the perspective that I bring to the table. That has been really important for me. And then just that self awareness as well, in terms of understanding, now that I can understand things like, okay, like microaggressions or unconscious bias or what I might be experiencing, that's helped me to speak up, as I say, with like more clarity. And I can separate what might just be me, what might be systemic, or what might be cultural issues, and then think about how to address things.
And on that, what do you think organizations can do to better support the not just the introduction of more black women in the tech space, but also the evolution, which is their development into more senior roles and things of that nature?
Mm.
And that's just looking at organizations generally, not
Yeah.
any particular one.
I think the first thing they have to do is acknowledge that there is a lived experience behind the person. That actually is a thing, but in a good way, because whether it's black women or anyone from an underrepresented community, they can bring a perspective. There's like strength in diversity in thought. Like I've been over time, I've been looking at this, and there are actually statistics, in fact, that show organized. In fact, there was a cited studies by McKinsey and Company, which is a strategy and management consulting company, and those well-cited studies showed that companies that are in the top quartile for ethnicity and diversity are actually 35% more likely to see a financial return when it comes, you know, in their industry over above their average industry. So they need to actually realize that one, the lived experience is there, but two, that diversity in thought can have a positive impact for them. I think that representation is one thing, but representation at different levels is important. It I think it's important not just to have people in entry level roles, but qualified people also in senior roles, in exec roles, because again, how do you know you can be something if you can't see it?
Mm-hmm.
I also think that those that are in management positions need to be trained to spot things like microaggressions or, you know, bias or what have you, and given the support to know how to address it so that they can support those that might be experiencing it. And then, yeah, I just think that kind of like enablement, you know, putting accountability there, that training, I think it will make for a better experience for, you know, women of color or underrepresented groups, not just to exist in the workplace, but to actually thrive in the workspace. Do you know what else is important actually? You know, they always talk about mentorship for
Mm-hmm.
development. I think that's also important. But I think what's even important, just as important or even more important, is sponsorship. Like, who is advocating for underrepresented groups or women of color, you know, who's speaking their names in rooms that they're not in to actually help them thrive? I think those two almost go like hand in hand, like they're both important. So yeah, I think it's a mix of things that they need to be doing, and it can't just be lip service as well. It can't just be a tick box. It has to be intentional. It has to be embedded in the culture. It has to be a top down approach from leadership. Leadership drive, you know, they drive the direction. It has to be an understanding also that most companies have like a DE&I like role or a department. They might have ERG groups, but actually it's the responsibility of the whole organization. And I think that needs to really be embedded into the culture.
Yeah, powerful. A lot to unpack in that
Yeah.
answer. What I want to ask next is kind of building on that, which is why tech then? What are the challenges that potentially may be either systemic or environmental when it comes to the success of black women in the tech space?
Mm.
Why tech? And also, if it wasn't tech, what else would you be doing?
Sorry, when you say why tech, do you mean why am I in tech?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll just be so honest with you. It goes back to I fell into it.
Okay.
But I think what has made me stay there is, so you know I mentioned I started in the hardware space and then I moved into software. The constant evolution of software and like how it's changing, how it's, you know, driving the world, you know, is so interesting. You know, like we're in this AI era at the moment, all things like AI, generative AI, everything is so interesting. And the way that like technology powers like organizations, I just find it so interesting. So even though I fell into it, that's what's made me stay there, because also, right, there's so many different types of technology. I'm in digital experience, but there's fintech, there's march tech, there's, you know, there's GRC, like governance, risk, compliance, everything. So many industries, you know, need technology to thrive. So that's what's kept me there, because I'm somebody that always needs to be learning. If something feels mundane or boring, I kind of check out. But in the space that I'm in, I can just keep evolving. So I think that's why tech. If it wasn't tech, right, I think I might be a dermatologist, or like, um it sounds weird because it's got nothing to do with it. Something like a mentor or coach. I feel like I like things where I'm making a difference to people, or helping to support them or helping them to see some sort of tangible outcome. So something like that, where, you know, if it's like dermatology and like people are having like skincare issues or something, and over time you can see the difference that doing something makes. Or just even now, like I love to like mentor those that are like early stages in their career, and just seeing how it builds their confidence, helps them to thrive in their career. I love it. So maybe I'll do something like that full time if I wasn't in tech.
There's a lot in that.
Yeah, I
So
know.
dermatologist, mentor, coach, supporting early careers, and
Yeah,
obviously you're
it's
in
different
tech as well.
facets.
So based on all that,
Yeah.
because there's opportunity to kind of do all those different elements in what you do, right?
Yeah.
So what would success look like for you when it comes to your career
What now?
now and in the future?
Ooh, in my career, that's an interesting one. Do you know what? When I was younger, I think that do you know what? When I was younger, I thought I just wanted to like keep climbing the corporate ladder and like become CEO of a company one day. But now, do you know what? I've realized that it doesn't always have to be like going up, 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 up. You know, I think I was somebody that used to live to work, but now I work to live. So I actually, at the moment, I think for me, success is somewhere where I'm still learning, growing, developing my skills, but that also allows me to like pursue other interests. So where I am now, I'm in a role where prior to last year, I entered this role last year or the year before, I hadn't really done this exact role before. I had transferable skills, but I didn't have, it wasn't like my primary role that I'd done before. So I've been learning. So I think for now, actually, it's just somewhere where I'm continuing to develop myself, and something that allows me to pursue my other creative interests. And what I've learned is I'm comfortable with that. I don't think you have to always know, I want to be exactly this, or, you know, I'm just comfortable with doing that as long as I'm developing and able to, yeah, pursue my own passions, then that's success for me.
No, I really respect that answer because I think people are kind of brought up and developed to have a clear like linear path when it comes to careers in terms of I want to
Yeah.
do this and everything I do works towards that. And in reality, people realize that careers are very squiggly. You
Yeah.
can have the initial aspiration in terms of doing this, and then you can end up excelling in other areas.
Yeah.
And on that, while you're obviously in the tech space primarily,
Mm.
what's one moment in your career so far where you'll say that's kind of defined why you're in that space, or that's kind of defined like your success, or like built your reputation in terms of
Mm.
um, your career so far?
Um, I think it's so I've always been client facing, right? I started out in project management and like implementation manage. So I was implementing like hardware projects, and then I moved into implementing software projects. And I remember I was at an organization, and they were doing this like massive rollout of this department called customer success, which is it's more known now, but at the time it was in its embryonic stage. And it was coming up from top leadership down, from execs. We're rolling out this massive department, they're going to be frontline with our biggest customers. And I remember hearing them talk about it because there was so much fanfare around it. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to be staying away from that because I don't think I want that type of pressure or like focus on or eyes on what I'm doing. And then my manager at the time, John, bless him, one of the best managers I've ever had, he came to me and he's like, oh, this role is coming up and I want you to go for it. And in my head, I was thinking, I don't want to go for that because I don't want that pressure and I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, you will be fantastic for this role. And he really like pushed me and encouraged me to go for it. And it's the first time I think that I really stepped out of my comfort zone and went for something, not knowing 100%, feeling like I know what I'm doing. And I got the role. And actually, that I think was a turning point for me because I did really well in that role. And there's actually nothing wrong with acknowledging that you've done well in something. I think we have this kind of culture where you have to be like really like, oh no, I'm not good, but there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that you've done well. And I was able to do really well in that role. And actually, when I left that organization to go to another one where they asked me to build out that department for them, because they didn't have that experience, and I would have never had the opportunity to build out a whole department for another organization if I didn't go for that role. And that was how I got my first management role. And I was able to like build my skills there as well. Like being an individual contributor is very different to managing like a team. And so I was able to leave my stamp there. And that was key because without those transferable skills, I wouldn't be able to do the role that I'm doing now, which is in account management. So definitely my manager seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself, and then going for it is, yeah, that was a real big turning point and has had a big impact on my career.
Love that. And firstly, big up John.
Big up,
Big up,
John.
John.
He's the
Um,
best.
Before I move into the topic of ERG, because it wouldn't be a behind the ERG podcast if we didn't talk about ERGs.
Yeah.
One last bit on your career so far. What advice would you give to a young black girl, let's say secondary school, college, who is considering tech as a career option?
Ooh. Um. Do you know what? Right. You have to believe that you belong there, even if you don't think you belong there. You have to tell yourself you do. You don't even need to know everything. You need to be curious, be resilient, be ready to show up for yourself and believe in yourself even when others don't, because that won't even just be, you might not even just go through that when you're first going into tech. You might experience that at certain points in your career. So you have to tell yourself you believe here. I think start seeking out like networks. So, like maybe communities that you can identify with, mentors that can help develop you, sponsors that might be able to get you a foot in the door, that might be able to advocate for you to like first get your foot in the door and then, you know, doing this, replicating that when you actually get into the organization. I think know that your voice is valued and your perspective is important. You know, I was talking earlier about stats that show organizations are more likely to see a financial return based on that diversity in thought. So know that your voice is important, and also just be unapologetic in your ambition. Like go for what you want. You know, again, you have a place, you have a voice, it's important. Be unapologetic and just go for it, I think.
Love that.
Yeah.
And a lot of gems there for our young black queens who are looking at tech. And I like the point you said, feel like you belong there
Yeah.
because we show excellence in different industries and sectors and we belong everywhere.
Yeah. And just one other thing, the reason I started with that is because I know firsthand what it is like to first enter a space and you don't see anybody that looks like you. It's a weird, it really is a strange experience, and you're still learning who you are. You're still learning, you're still developing. So even if you enter that space and you don't see anybody, just remind yourself that I still belong here. My voice is important. I have something to contribute.
Love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned networks, and due to that, I'm going to segue into ERGs.
Yeah.
So, what I want to ask is you mentioned that you've always been involved in ERGs in some way or form
Mm-hmm.
in the companies you worked for. So, what made you first get involved in ERGs, and then what's kept you involved?
Obviously I'm a black woman, right? So I sit at the intersection of race and gender. And so both of those kind of those things are partly inherent in who I am. And I think I wanted community. Like I wanted other people, I wanted to seek out people that I can identify with or connect with, and make a difference with. And sometimes, right, you're not necessarily going to find that in your core role or in your core team, you know, so you have to step outside of that core element to find that. So that is what made me get involved first. I think community. What's kept me there is like the impact that we can make. I think I've become more confident in speaking up about the things that I care about and openly trying to make a difference in those things. And so being part of, like, so wherever I've been, I've always been part of either a women's network or the Black Employee Network. And where I am currently, I'm part of both. So, and I've found such amazing community in both. And even there you find like diversity within those groups, you know, because where I'm part of the women, like the women network at my workplace, we're all still from different backgrounds, you know, but we have certain shared experiences. And then even within, you know, the Black Employee Network, again, we still have different backgrounds but similarities where we can connect together and we can come together and make a difference, you know, for other employees. So I think that's definitely what's kept me there.
Love that. And thanks for all the work you're doing in that space. And in terms of that work,
100.
we're going to talk about an event that happened last year, which is Behind the Smile Sickle Cell at Work. And you used an innovative approach to fundraising and did a relay race. Why a relay race?
Okay, can I tell you the truth, right? I'll tell you the truth. I just have to give you that. So I am not a believer in reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
So what happened was the relay race came about because I was talking to a colleague and she was like, "Oh, I'm going to take part in like the building where we're based. They were doing a relay race and but there's different like companies that are in that building, so they could like build a team and then take part for charity." And I was like, I was like, oh, I'll go and support them because I thought I'm definitely not racing. So I'll go and support them. And I was like, and I will like donate. So I went and I watched the race and I was like, this is super cool. And so I was thinking, oh, maybe we could do something to like raise awareness for sickle cell, like raise awareness for sickle cell and for charity. And I always think if you've got something there already, you can either literally copy it as it is, you can strip it back, or you can build on it. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to build on it a little bit, which is probably where, if we want to say innovation comes in a bit. So I just wanted to like kind of go big. So I didn't want it to just be aimed at like our network, the people in the network, because I feel like often with employee resource groups, those that aren't in the group think they can't get involved.
Yeah.
But I wanted them to know, I wanted everybody to know, no, this is for everybody, right? So I wanted everybody involved. I wanted to like brand it with like the Black Employee Network, like branding, because I think another thing is getting the name out there so people actually know what you're doing and they know that they can get involved. So I wanted to brand it. I wanted to get everybody involved. I mean, everything was branded, even the tops, even the buttons that we had. And so I thought, so it actually came about because I saw a relay race happen and I thought, oh, we could do something like this, but I want to find a way to get everyone involved. And I really want to push the Black Employee Network brand out there. And that's how that happened.
And I love the transparency in saying that you saw a concept that worked and then you tailored it for the ambition of what you was looking to achieve.
Yeah,
That's
because you have to,
important because not everything has to be,
from the start.
yeah,
Yeah. You have to work smart, not hard all the time.
love that.
So, yeah, that helped.
And in bringing that idea to life, I'm not even going to go into the numerous voice notes and the conversations that
I thought
happened.
you were going to block me.
But what was the biggest challenge in changing, in basically transferring this from like an idea into reality?
Oh my goodness. Do you know what it was? It's all of the logistics behind it. Do you know, like health and safety permits? Just even trying to, we had a company that did, I wanted us to have, you know, the board to create excitement, a board that's like tracking everybody's time in real time so you could see the leaderboard changing. Finding a company that could even do that. It's everything. Oh, honestly, it's everything behind it. Even the logistics of how, based on the racetrack that we have, how it would like log the times for everything. And then just like managing all of the sign-ups and, you know, allocating all the it's just everything, because you have to remember, when you're part of an employee resource group, right, you have a full-time job, so this is not your main job, you're doing it on the side. So I think I underestimated what it would take to bring it together. I just thought we can get people in a track and run around, but it is not that.
Yeah.
Okay, even like catering, just like how many people, what do, you know, just, it was all of the logistics, honestly, and just, but also I'm part of a fantastic like leadership team, and so everyone came together to support it. We have someone that's amazing at doing the branding, so she made like all of the posters and stuff, and then I was able to like get somebody to help me. We had medals, okay? I said we need medals, okay? Somebody helped us find the medals. And just, you know, like even we coordinated with a charity like NHS Blood and Transplant, and just even making sure that the branding that we put to promote it is branding that they're, you know, that can be signed off. It's all these little things that I think, yeah, that was quite challenging, but it was worth it.
Yeah. Definitely worth it. And one of the things that I really liked about that event is you got so many different people involved
Yeah.
across your organization. So how was you able to convince them to be like, hey, let's take time out of your days to just do a relay race?
Okay, guys, can I
Yeah,
say this is why network is important,
yeah,
okay? Because one, I was able to call on like a network of people that have been they're fantastic colleagues, that we support each other. If they were doing something, in fact, the reason I knew about the race is because I went to a race supporting my colleague.
yeah.
So if you have a great network, like a healthy network, you usually support each other. So I was able to call on the help of my network. I think what's also important to acknowledge, right, is that we're all humans and we all have areas of interest. Raising awareness for sickle cell for me is important because it impacts our community, and I've seen firsthand like the impact it has on those that actually, those that have sickle cell. So for me, it's important, but the truth of it is it doesn't mean it's as important to everybody else.
Mm,
So you have to speak a language that they can resonate with. So for me, when I put it out there, it was about come and do a fun relay race, right? It's going to build camaraderie. It's going to be fun. Everybody loves a bit of competition. So we made sure that we put competition, free lunch. Everybody loves a free lunch. Okay, who doesn't love a free lunch? Free lunch. And then besides that, you can also learn a bit more about sickle cell. So to me, the truth of it is you just sometimes have to speak what is going to get the interest of others. And doing it that way worked well because actually one of the things that was so amazing for me outside of the money it raised was hearing that managers then started talking about it in their team meetings. They actually tried to help educate people based on what they learned. And to me, that is real impact where you're not just saying you want to get the message out there, you're actually seeing the message be put out there. So I think, yeah, it was just about telling people this is what you can get out of it. And yeah, we just had such like a diverse set of colleagues that took part from different teams, different backgrounds, different races, genders, everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk numbers on this show,
Yeah.
but a significant sum was raised
Yeah.
by your colleagues collectively. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And I know the charity will use that
Mm.
positively to advance their mission.
Yeah.
What I want to ask is, what do you want the legacy of that event and the work you do to support people suffering from chronic conditions to be? Because one of the key things when it comes to staff networks is avoiding point in time moments, right?
Mm.
So where do you look at that kind of support for sickle cell, whatever the chronic condition may be, expanding in 2026?
I think we're still in a space where we still need to like spread the message of what sickle cell is, and um, helping people to understand not just what it is, but what their colleagues or those that they may interact with are facing and what they're dealing with. So there's still work to be done. There was that, I think it was actually at that Behind the Smile event that one of the panelists there asked everybody who knows what cancer is, and everybody put their hand up. And then um or maybe it wasn't that one, it might have been another one. I think it was another event, I can't remember, it was one of them. And they said, what they want is for everybody to raise their hand when you ask what sickle cell is, and or whether you know what sickle cell is. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. So I think that's one. I think if we're talking about sickle cell in particular, it's about, one of the key challenges is around like blood donation. So I think, how do we make a tangible difference in like a constant flow of of encouraging people and then seeing an increase in donation blood donation, if that makes sense. And I think building, like you said, not just like a point in time event, but actually building partnerships, right? Like long standing strategic partnerships with organizations that can help drive the change. And we can therefore do events or whatever initiative it is we need to keep supporting that impact. I think that's what it would be.
Love that.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this podcast for the first time, Behind the Smile was an innovative event done last year that brought together staff networks and ERGs from over 10 different companies who fundraise collectively to support two charities, the NHS Blood and Transplant Charity Trust, and also ACLT, the African Caribbean Leukemia Trust. And if you haven't seen the recap video from the amazing Lizzie, who owns Lizzie in the Element, then we'll put a link in the description so you can watch that recap vid.
Link in the bio, guys.
Link in the bio.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap up with a few more questions around ERGs
Yeah.
and the work you've done in that space, because you're basically like an ERG veteran now.
Oh yeah, that's so funny.
So
That's funny.
how do you see like ERGs evolving over the next few years? Because you mentioned you're involved in more than one in your organization. So how do you see ERGs continuing to grow in the future to continue to be impactful? And that's internally and externally.
Seeing them grow. I feel like a lot of ERGs, right, are about community building to a degree. And maybe, supporting the experience that people have in the workplace. I think over the next few years, though, ERGs will have a part to play in more of a strategic part to play when it comes to partnering with organizations. So now, when you want to do something, for instance, organizations might measure it by like how many people turned up, or what's your engagement, how many people are coming to your meetings. I think over time, actually, what they'll want to understand is how is the work an ERG doing supporting our business objectives, or something that actually impacts the organization in a way that is more business focused. So has it done anything to support retention, to drive a better employee experience, to build diverse pipeline? I think the way in which ERGs are measured, but also maybe the seat that they have at the table in strategic conversations would develop. But then I'm also hoping that with that, if there's that kind of increased responsibility, hopefully there'll be more resource given, and the way ERGs are looked at is more, like from a strategic lens rather than just as part of the culture, which is really important, by the way. But I think, two things can coexist at the same time.
Love that. And I think that business benefit element is going to be important over the next 5 years as they grow, and also the intersectionality aspect as well.
Yeah.
Continuing on the topic of ERGs, what I want to ask you is, let's say you're a young professional going into the workspace now. Why should they get involved in ERGs?
Why? I think it's going to help you build your network. Again, I'm such an advocate for building your network outside of your core role. Obviously, building it within your core role and that ecosystem is important, but building it outside of that, I think, is so key too. It also helps you to develop skills that you may not have had, or that you may not, develop skills that you might not get out of your core role. So I think being able to develop yourself, I think it also gives confidence as well. I know for me, being involved in employee resource groups and the things that I've done as part of it has helped to build my confidence. So I think if people want to build their network, which is so important, build your confidence, develop your skills, then I would encourage them to get involved in one.
Love that. And looping back to you as an individual, you spoke a lot about the importance of building your network, mentorship, sponsorship, things of that nature. So when it comes to you, what do you want your legacy to be? When you look back, how do you want to be remembered? What are the key words you want people to use to describe you?
Keywords. Oh, that's interesting. I think maybe like builder.
Yeah.
So built like, we have had, for instance, where I am now, we had some people that have done amazing work in the BEN network, the Black Employee Network, before we formed. What happened was there was a bit of like a gap between maybe when those that have built it up originally were there, and then where we kind of took over the mantle. So what I would love is for what we've built to be sustainable, right? for people to continue, even for our team to continue as we work on it, or people in the future. What I would like is for people also that have been impacted by it or for people to actually be able to be like, oh, the work that the ERG done has actually impacted me. It's given me more confidence. It gave me more visibility. It gave me this opportunity. I think that is because that's why outside of the community it builds for me, that's why I do it. I'm really passionate about supporting, for instance, the next generation and making people from, those that are from underrepresented groups feel more seen, more heard, and, like, what's that word? Seen, heard, and encouraged. So if there are people that can actually say, because of the work you did, I've been able to do this, or it's made this difference, then to me, I'd be happy.
Love that.
Yeah.
And wrapping up, what's like one book, one mantra, one phrase that like you live by, or that's kind of driven you throughout your career?
Well, I think I collect those along the way, right? But I think this year, and it's funny because I actually wrote about it in a LinkedIn post today, is one thing that I came across it this year, and I'm definitely going to embody it for the rest of the year, is that life will meet you at your level of audacity. And I think that's so, and I'm a believer with mantras that they shouldn't just be mantras. When you speak them, it should drive some sort of behavior. And to me, that quote is so important because the opportunities you get, the development you get, the growth you get is probably going to be matched by the level to which you're willing to go for it. So I think, yeah, for me, that is what is top of like my mantras or what have you at the moment.
Of that. And what's next? Like what can we look forward to in 2026 and beyond?
What is next? Do you know what? For me, I think it's building on the foundations of what I started doing in 2025. And that's because for me, but like some people would probably be that know me would be shocked to hear this, but I think my confidence grew exponentially when I stopped subconsciously operating at the edge of my comfort zone, which is a piece of feedback that my manager John again gave me years ago. And now I consciously do that, right? I think also I used to just stop around the edge of my comfort zone, but now I push myself over, and I think I'm going to be doing more of that in 2026 and just building on the stuff that I've started. So the Black Employee Network, we want to come bigger and better this year, making impact, making change. Even in my role, in the grand scheme of things, it's quite new to me, so I want to build on my skills, become more of an SME. My YouTube series, I started that to spotlight the contributions of women, and now I'm including men, so I want to carry on that because what I love the most is when people message me and they're like, wow, I watched this episode with so and so, and this, I loved hearing this, or this has given me guidance, and that's what makes it worth it for me. So I think for me, it's not going to be this whole massive reinventation of something. It's just going to be building on what I did or started in 2025.
Love that. And on the Behind the ERG podcast, we have a segment called Pass the Mic, where the previous guests asks a question for the next guest to answer.
Yeah.
So based on that, my question for you, which is from our previous guest, Patris, is if you was given 30 million.
30.
30 million. I was gonna do the whole Davida 30 billion for the account over. I'm gonna avoid doing that to avoid cringing everyone. But if you're given 30 million
You should have thrown money in the air.
for your ERG, even though I'd keep it for myself, I'm being honest. What would you use the money for?
Oh, for my ERG.
Yeah. And how would you use it to create cultural change?
Ooh, Patris, that's an interesting one. £30 million. What would I do? Do you know one thing I think I'd do? I think those that we want to, like, I think I would put in some sort of program or something that could make a difference. So, when we talk about things like, I'm not even going to digress too much, but I would do things like, there's certain things that the barrier to entry is actually quite costly. It's quite difficult for instance, coaching. A lot of people don't know the difference between mentorship and coaching. Coaching, actually, the barrier to entry cost wise can be quite significant. I think I would create a program, access to things like that for the community, and programs that support programs that might otherwise have cost money, or people have to do it themselves that they can't afford. I think I'd focus on those things, being able to, for people to be able to access those things through the ERG. And then I'm smiling because 30 million is a lot of money. So maybe we all need to go on a retreat somewhere.
In Bali, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, it will be for development,
Yeah.
but maybe, yeah, some sort of trip like that. Yeah.
Love that answer. And we're going to end with one last question, which is, what is your question or challenge for the next guest?
Challenge.
We haven't had any challenges yet,
Have you not?
No.
A challenge.
Actually, no, I beg, let's keep it simple. Question, because I don't know
Okay,
what
what's
challenge
your
we're going to
question?
go with. So, and I don't know if they're going to do it. So let's go.
I
Let's
like
go
when
with
you use
question.
one. Do you know what? Mine is it might be quite boring, but I think for me, right, knowing kind of what I've experienced in my career, I'd love for them to talk about one thing they've actually had to unlearn to thrive in their career. Tell us about it and what they've had to do about it.
Love that. And in the spirit of transparency, I was literally just writing it down before I forget.
I can tell.
So, firstly, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for blessing us with your presence, your insights, your knowledge, and your gems. Before we wrap up, where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. And I don't even actually know most people, I probably should have prepped that, but just type in LinkedIn Busola Akinsete because I don't know what my URL is, but they can find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So it's going to wrap up there. Thank you, everyone that was able to kind of reach to the end of the podcast and support us this far. What an amazing, insightful story. Like she said, LinkedIn, no Instagram, no TikTok.
I don't even have TikTok.
Follow her on LinkedIn. And please, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share this with someone that you know that can benefit from this knowledge and insight, especially if it's a Black woman in tech or a woman in tech in general, or someone that's new to the ERG space and wants to know more. And stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks so much for your time. Bless. I'm your host, Ed. This is Behind the ERG, and this is us signing out.